If you've ever avoided doing things because you were afraid of having a panic attack, you are not alone. And in this video, I am going to show you exactly how I used gradual exposure to go from someone who always avoided social events to actually being able to go and enjoy them. If we haven't met, my name is Rachel. I am someone who has struggled for a very, very long time, for most of my life, with crippling anxiety and depression. And it wasn't until about 7 years ago where I started actually going to therapy and doing all the research and studying that I could possibly do to learn everything there is to know about my anxiety so that I could finally get relief, but more importantly, just get my life back. I missed out on a lot of things because of my anxiety, and it was basically controlling my life and making all my decisions. But over the past 365 days, I started doing gradual exposure, and I have learned so much from that journey that I want to share it with you. Because if you are someone who is always avoiding things, but you're just sick of missing out on your life, I know what that feels like. And so I want to show you what helped me, and hopefully the same thing can help you. So the very first thing that I needed to learn was understanding what avoiding situations was actually doing, because I never realized that when you avoid going somewhere because of your anxiety, you're actually teaching your brain that that place, that thing that you avoided going, was dangerous. And so every time that situation comes up or that opportunity comes up to do that thing, your brain goes, well, you avoided it last time and you felt so much relief, it must be dangerous. And it just is this vicious cycle, and before you know it, you've gone years without going to social events or just dreading them whenever they come up. And I know what it feels like when you cancel plans. So say you want to go somewhere and you cancel, the relief that feel. If you've never had anxiety, you wouldn't know, but the moment you're like, I'm not going, it's such a good feeling. But part of this journey was learning that although it's a good feeling in the moment, it's not helping you long term. And so what gradual exposure looked like for me was going to places, but coming up with a plan where I would make small steps. So there are two types of exposure therapy, and one is gradual, one is called flooding. Flooding is basically you just throw yourself into it and see what happens. That isn't, that's not a way that I feel like I would benefit from. I think that would have overwhelmed me too much, and it was not the best course of action for me. It may be for you, and that's amazing. I think we know ourselves well enough to know kind of what would work and what wouldn't, but for me, I needed to do it gradually. So an example that I'm going to use to show you what worked for me is going to sporting events. I love sports. I love hockey. I love going to Leafs games, Toronto Maple Leafs, Blue Jays games, basketball games, even like any sporting event. I just love going, but for so long I wouldn't go because my anxiety would just go through the roof. The thought of having a panic attack in the middle of a huge stadium with so many people and having seats that are right in the middle of the aisle, and you just that feeling of being trapped, it was just too much for me, and it sucked. Honestly, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It sucked not being able to go and enjoy those moments. And when I did go, I wasn't present. I wasn't actually enjoying the games because I was just sitting there trying so hard to fight my anxiety and just try to just get through it, get to the end, and I'd be better. Get to the end, just there's one more period left or whatever. So I wasn't actually enjoying the experience, and that's part of this too, is your anxiety takes that from you. And what I'm going to show you has completely changed my life in the past year. Like I said at the beginning, I went to avoiding places, social events, weddings, anything like that, going to restaurants, traveling, to someone who I really enjoy those things now. I'm excited to go on my next vacation. I go to restaurants without even really thinking about my anxiety, and I get excited about getting tickets to shows and games, and it's completely changed my life because I feel like I'm more in control. So the way I did it was actually breaking the event or task into small, manageable steps. And I like to think of it as a ladder. I picture a ladder, and from each step, I do something that increases my anxiety a tiny bit from the previous step. So I'll give you an example. Like I said, I love going to sporting events. So my ladder would look like this if I drew it out. At the bottom step, something that would give me like a 2 out of 10 anxiety, going to a shorter event with my husband. So going with my husband was a crutch for me because he's the person that I'm most comfortable with, and he's the only person that I would be able to go to an event with if I did go. So that first step, 2 out of 10, go to a short event with my husband. And then as I move up the ladder to a step that maybe gives me a 4 out of 10 anxiety, I'd go to a longer event, but standing room only. So I'm not confined to a seat. I go and I kind of stand in the crowd or stand at the top to watch the game. Again, having that feeling that I can leave if my anxiety becomes too overwhelming. And then 5 out of 10, I would go to an aisle seat. So I'm not standing anymore. I'm going to sit. I'm going to be at the end of the aisle though. So again, just having that comfort, knowing that if I start to get really panicky, start to get that panic attack feeling, I can easily just get up and I don't have to walk by a bunch of people. And then my 6 out of 10 step is sitting a few seats in. So not the aisle seat, but maybe a little bit towards the center, not in the center, but a few seats in, to train my brain to recognize that sitting in the middle of the aisle is not dangerous. And then 8 out of 10 would be middle of the aisle, the spot that would give me the most anxiety whenever I would have to sit in there. That would be towards the top of my ladder. And then a 9 out of 10 anxiety would be me attending an event with someone other than my husband, because it's, again, as I mentioned, having him there, that person that you feel comfortable with, who knows what I deal with, and who I can say, hey, like, I'm not comfortable, we need to go, and who would understand. Being able to go with someone other than him, that would be up there on a 9 out of 10 anxiety. And then a 10 out of 10, the ultimate kind of goal, would be able to go to an event, buy whatever tickets are available. I don't look for an aisle seat. I don't look to see where exactly the seats are and how many seats from the aisle I am, and try to do all this planning before I go. Just buy whatever seats are available with whoever may invite me to a game. And what I want to emphasize here is getting to that end goal isn't going to happen overnight. It's not like one week you're going to do the 2 out of 10, the one at the bottom, and then the very next week you're going to go to the next and then the next week by week. But you're just going to do it enough times to train your brain to realize that you're not in danger by doing these things that tend to make you anxious. And something that a lot of therapists, I think, would disagree with me on this, but they say to avoid sitting in an aisle seat and going towards the middle, or not always going with someone you're comfortable with, and to go through the exposure. Yes, I think to go from sitting in an aisle seat to sitting in the middle, that's part of the process, and that's part of the exposure therapy. But if you're more comfortable sitting in the aisle seat even after that, like you reach that goal where you're like, you know what, I'm good to go. I've done the steps, I've exposed myself to it. First of all, that's something to be very proud of. If you have anxiety, people who don't have anxiety around those things, or are afraid of having a panic attack, they may see that as not significant, but I know, and you should know, like, that's a big deal, and you should be proud of yourself if you've gotten to the top of a ladder, and you shouldn't rush yourself to get to the top of the ladder, but every step you take you should be proud of, because it's not easy. It's very hard to fight with your own mind over things. So that's the first thing. Second, say you get to the ladder, you do the thing that is at the top of your ladder, and you've exposed yourself, and then you want to keep going to games or restaurants or travel or whatever, and you do have that crutch that does make you feel more comfortable. Who cares if you use that crutch? If you want to sit in the aisle seat, sit in the aisle seat. If you just want to travel with a certain person, just travel with a certain person. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you go through the exposure therapy and you do it and you prove to yourself that you can do it, that's an accomplishment. And that's teaching your brain that you can do the things that anxiety tells you you can't. But after that, if there's something that you do use as a crutch, or it just makes you more comfortable, just do it. Because it's hard to miss out on life because you think you have to do things a certain way. And that's what I want to make sure that everyone understands from this video. Is I'm not saying that you should never sit in the aisle seat, or you should only go to restaurants that kind of make you a little uncomfortable so that you can build up that exposure, or mostly go to things without that person that you're most comfortable with. That is not what I'm saying. I don't believe in that. I think you should do what you feel comfortable doing, do what you want to do, but going through this journey and just trying to teach your brain that you can overcome these anxious thoughts and control your panic attacks and your anxiety, that's the goal of this activity. And that's what happened in the past year for me, is really just putting myself through it, proving to myself that I can. And now I do what makes me happy. If I want to go to a game and I want to sit in an aisle seat, I'm going to sit in an aisle seat. And I'm not going to feel bad about that. I'm not going to say it's my crutch. It's just what I like. So I hope this helps if you're going through this similar thing with your anxiety. If you're looking for more ways or resources to help you, I'll leave a link in the description below. I have a bunch of free resources available that you can download. I will specifically add the ladder activity so that you can fill it out on your own and learn how to use it, so that you can start to expose yourself to whatever it is that you want to start doing. And thank you for staying till the end of the video, and I appreciate it more than you can know. And just know that if you are struggling with kind of everyday anxiety and there are things that you've missed out on because of it, you're not alone. And I'm I am here to help, and that's all I want to do with this channel and my business. So it would mean the world to me if you subscribed, liked the video, and like I said, I'll leave a description below if you're looking for free resources that can help manage your anxiety better. So thank you so much. I will see you in the next video. Until then, stay well.